inner forgiveness. So, in a quaint village nestled between rolling hills, lived a wise old owl. His name was Ollie. One day, a young rabbit named Rosie approached Ollie with a heavy heart. See, she was carrying the weight of the past on her shoulders. She said, Ollie, I can't seem to move on. I can't seem to move past because I have this burden that's weighing me down. Now, Ollie listened intently, started nodding knowingly at Rosie, but poured out her troubles. And after a moment of listening to what Rosie was going through, the owl spoke to Rosie in a calming voice. He said, Rosie, imagine yourself holding onto a string attached to a balloon. That balloon represents your past. It's okay to acknowledge it. But holding onto it too tightly can hinder your ability to run, your ability to have fun. So Rosie furrowed her brow, confused, but Ollie, how can I let go of the past completely? It feels like it's such a big part of me. Ollie gently replied, letting go doesn't mean forgetting or denying your experiences. It just means releasing the grip that they have on you. Just as the balloons float away, when you loosen your grip on that string, you can allow your past just to drift to a safe distance. Rosie pondered Ollie's words just for a moment. So I can acknowledge my past without letting it control me, right? Exactly, Ollie confirmed. Forgiveness and acceptance are like gentle gusts of wind that help guide the balloon away. See, we can choose to forgive those who have hurt us and accept what is done, but it's also important to set boundaries and to protect ourselves from hurt again. So, with newfound clarity, Rosie thanked Ollie for his wisdom and set off to apply his teachings in her life. Now, she watched the sunset over the hill. She felt this sense of peace within her. And though her past is always going to be part of her story, she now had that freedom to chart her own course, keeping her a safe distance from those burdens that once weighed her down. Now, letting go or not letting go is not going to affect the narcissist either way. You can forgive them, you can despise them. But by holding on to that hurt, you'll unintentionally be hurting yourself. There's a great quote that says, forgiveness isn't something that you do for someone else, it's something that you can do for yourself. It's saying you're not important enough to have a stronghold over me. It's like saying you don't get to trap me in the past because I'm worthy of a future. Now, a common misconception is that to forgive is to accept abuse, but a better word for forgiveness would be unburdening. Unburdening isn't letting toxic behavior off the hook in any way. Now, so in fact, psychologists, they have identified three different types of forgiveness. Now, the first one is full forgiveness. So this is pretty much when a total, letting go of everything negative feelings towards the offender. The relationship can be fully restored and you can kind of move on as if you did before. Now, that's full forgiveness. The next one they have is limited forgiveness. This is where, you reduce your feelings so you're not feeling the pain towards that person. And you can partly restore some of the relationship, maybe because you have to, because you're with in a relationship with someone who, you have kids together, or maybe it's just because they're a family member, or just because it's like, you know what, this is what I choose. I'm just choosing to have you at a distance, but still in my life in some way. Now, the final way was the detached forgiveness. Now, this is when you unburden yourself of all the negative feelings towards that person, but you don't reconcile whatsoever in no place. So this person's out of your life, and there's no way that they're going to get back in your life. So there's different ways to forgive if that is something that feels right. And it's also making sure that you choose the right time to do it. Forgiveness is simply letting go of the burdens that are holding you. Anger, bitterness, rage, resentment, they were all normal parts of grieving, and they're definitely not something that needs to be rushed. And there's no pressure to forgive. The perpetrator will never deserve forgiveness. But you deserve to be unburdened. In the quote that's quite fitting. It says bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It kind of makes no sense. Another reason that we fail to let go of the past is we actually have this a belief that we need to hold on to anything that's congruent with our identity. So if you experience, say, childhood abuse or neglect, or an abusive relationship, or subjected to any kind of bullying at school or in the workplace, then you were a victim of abuse. Now, continuing to see ourselves as this victim is what often keeps us trapped in the victim's circumstances, because we're still holding on. So of course, past trauma is, and holding on to it is a coping mechanism. It's holding on to that pain because someone's betrayed us, because something's happened in our past, and we're afraid to let go. Especially when it's someone that we, trusted. And the truth is, yeah, all those things that's happened, we were at one point helpless because we didn't know what was going on, or because we were a child. We were in need of love. We were betrayed, were hurt, lacking control. This ability to change our situation, that's where we were at. But that was then, and right now we're in a better position. We've moved ourselves forward a little bit. So we're wiser, we're stronger, we're evolving, more resilient. We're becoming that new version of ourselves, that unstoppable version. Now, some people have this mentality where we stay as a victim, and that's when we just see problems. Everywhere we look, it's just we see problems. It's the glass half full, right? Rather than half empty. So, for signs that you might notice in someone or notice in yourself, if you're the sort of person that's kind of holding on to this need to kind of validation for being, someone who, has a lot of problems, is a victim. This doesn't mean that you haven't been, victimized, but it means that you're holding on to something. So that could be, you're constantly looking for recognition, constantly, and that's not saying you shouldn't talk about it. Like, it's so important to talk about things that you've been through. But if you're looking for recognition, then maybe that's like, why is this part of your identity? Because then this stops you moving on and creating another part of identity, like a part of identity that would actually help you to, move forward with the future self. Another one that psychologists have pinpointed is kind of moral elitism. Like, I'm right about everything, I know everything, don't want to talk to people about their their ideas, because it's everything you say, very much black and white thinking. Another one is lack of empathy. So again, it's, I'm the victim, you guys are all okay, sort of thing, rather than helping each other. Like, yeah, we've both had a bad time, how can we help each other? Because there's so much we can get from knowing that actually, we can be more than a victim. We can now, we can start to thrive. And then frequently ruminating about the past. Again, this keeps us stuck, just going over loops of what happened in the past. And again, none of these things are meant to, say that, you shouldn't do any of these things, but these are just states just to watch out for and to notice, because once we notice things about ourselves, that brings self-awareness. And then with self-awareness, we can, start to change those patterns and turn them into kind of more positive ways to move forward. So, just a few unconscious reasons why we might want to stay there. If you can read that, it says, it allows you to not take responsibility for your life. Okay, if it's like the world's against me, that gives you this reason, like, okay, I don't have to take responsibility. People will try to help you and solve your problems for you is another reason. It's of course it's nice. It feels like, okay, someone cares about me. We get a lot of joy from the drama. You can avoid uncomfortable feelings like anger. We don't have to be angry that things aren't working out. We can just be like, it's sometimes it's nicer to stay in the kind of state where we're just not feeling. And again, that's like, these are all normal things. This is all part of being human. We've all experienced not wanting to actually go through the pain, because of course going through the pain is super painful. but it's knowing that something else is at the other side. It's, being a victim makes you feel like others value you. Because, if you're being a victim, people can come and, say nice things to you if you've got good people around you. And it always feels good. It's become a way of, survival. Again, as a child, especially, if you can survive by being this victim because people, again, come to you, come to your aid, it's helped you get through really hard times. If people think that you're struggling, then they won't criticize you as much. It can help you avoid conflict with other people. You're more likely to get what you want in some situations. There are fewer expectations of you. People will not burden you with their problems. You influence people when you play the victim, or it forces other people to take care of you. So again, there's lots of reasons, and this is one of the things we're going to be looking at today. One of the themes is, what are the things that are holding us back? Because sometimes there's stuff that we just don't see holding us back, but once we can get it, then we can start working on it. So on the other hand, there's people who, rather than have the victim mentality, they have the victim mentality, someone who's been through it. It's like, you know what, I've got to the other side. This is that more positive outlook, right? Where you're looking within themselves, finding the solution, saying, you know what, I can't control what's on the outside. I can't control what's happening in the rest of the world. I can't control what these people are doing. But I can rely on myself because I have a huge amount of strength within myself. I just need to tap into. And that's what victors do. They play to their strengths. They find what it is about themselves. Like, hey, where am I excelling? Because maybe that's the area that I need to use those tactics and bring them into another arena. So let's do this little exercise now. So first of all, I want to introduce you to the character strengths. Now, they've basically come up with 24 different positive character strengths that they've split into kind of these 6 categories. So I'm just going to quickly run through the categories. But as I do, start seeing what you notice about any of these strengths. Is any that start popping out at you? Because in a minute, the exercise we do is going to be asking you to, if you look some questions, and then the questions are going to ask you to, sort of make a list of which strengths you used in those situations, if that makes sense. I'll explain as we go. So, first one is wisdom. This is curiosity, creativity, perspective, love of learning, judgment. If any of these are cropping up and you're going, yep, that's me, just make a mental note. These strengths are useful in helping you learn. If you're the sort of person who likes to learn, to gather knowledge, courage, bravery, zest, honesty, perseverance. These emotional strengths empower us to tackle adversity and how we, can work through adversity. Humanity. This one, they've just got the kindness, love, and social intelligence. Humanity strengths come into play by helping us build and maintain positive, warm relationships with other people. So that's more those kind of relationship building strengths within us. Justice. This could be teamwork, working together, making sure everyone gets fairness, leadership. These strengths, they relate to those things around us when we're in social situations, we're in groups, we're not just kind of blinkered and living life kind of in a narcissistic mindset. So again, it's like, which ones of these are relating to you? And then the 2 more is, so the other category is temperance, which is self-regulation, prudence, humanity, forgiveness. These help us to manage our habits, protect us against excess, and just kind of being in charge of ourselves, that kind of self-awareness. Transcendence, this is the appreciation of excellence and beauty, the gratitude, hope, spirituality, humor, these kind of things that help us see the world in a different light, kind of take us to another level of understanding, another plane of thinking. So that was the strengths. Now these questions, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go through these questions, and the questions aren't related directly to the strengths, but once you've gone through the strength, once you've gone through the question, if you can then look at like which strength you can link it to, basically. which I can pop up again in a minute if you need me to. So cool. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go through those questions and just see what comes up and see what, try and work out what character strength you're using in those situations, if that makes sense. And then when you've got your character strengths and you've got them paired up with your questions, work out what the top three are or whatever. See if there's like a group that they go in. Maybe you've got a couple that are in courage or wisdom. And just see what they are. See if you can kind of make a little group. See which ones are kind of the strongest, maybe the top three. You kind of feel like the ones that kind of seem to be showing up more. Okay. And then now you've got your character strengths, you've got your top strengths. It's looking at ways that we can use those strengths in daily life, because so often we're trying to do something, we're trying to get over an obstacle, we're trying to go in a certain direction, and we're doing it the way everyone else does it, and yet our strengths might not be the same strengths. So it's how we can start to incorporate these in the things we do. So for instance, if you're your strength is curiosity or love of learning or something like that, then maybe you want to go home from work a different way. Okay, so that would be like, right, I can make work for me because I'm going to use my strengths, incorporate them into, I'm curious, so I'm going to make sure I drive, I go home on roads that I've never been on before, because that's going to light me up, because that's the sort of person I am, and I've been doing the things the same every day and it's not lighting me up. It's making me forget actually that I don't have to fight and try and use things that totally just not working for me. So yeah, so there's some kind of sentences to finish there, and yeah, see if you can come up with ways to use your strengths to finish those sentences in ways that as creative as you want to be, really. It could just be, if you're curious, it could be, at home I can wash the dishes, but by smelling the washing powder, just anything like that, where you can use your curiosity in many ways, for instance. So once upon a time, there was a farmer who lived with his son and their horse in a little tiny village. One day their horse ran away, but the next day the horse came back, and with some new friends. Now all the villagers, they were happy for him. They said, well, that's so good luck. Like, your horses came back. We thought it was really bad when the horses disappeared. The next day, the farmer's son, he wanted to go and ride on one of the horses, but he fell off and he broke his legs. The neighbors came round and they said, well, that's really bad luck. I'm really sorry to hear that your son got hurt. Then a couple of weeks later, the army came. They came marching through the town, conscripting every able-bodied young man to join them. But they didn't take the farmer's son because he had this broken leg. So the villagers then came round again and said, oh, wow, that's so lucky that your son broke his legs and was unfit to serve in the army. To which the farmer replied, good luck, bad luck, who knows? Because the farmer realized that thing. He realized that things aren't always the way they might seem at first. What might seem like it's good luck, what might seem like it's bad luck, it can always turn out in a different way. And so the farmer learned to take control of his life and take it with a pinch of salt, take it as it comes, with a smile, knowing that sometimes what seems like it's bad luck at the beginning can actually become good luck, and vice versa, of course. Now, in psychology, they have a term called impact bias, and this refers to our kind of a tendency to overestimate the intensity or the duration of our emotional reactions to things that happen to us and our future circumstances. Now, in 2010, Rachel Freudman, she was enjoying her bachelorette party. But after jumping in the pool and hitting her head, she woke up in the hospital, paralyzed. Now, Rachel decided she could only focus on what she could do instead of what she couldn't do. She found joy in friends, in family, and in hobbies. she started telling her story to other people. She wanted them to know that even though bad things happen, it's possible to stay happy. And Rachel became an advocate for people with disability. She spoke out about the importance of accessibility and inclusion of everyone. Rachel's positive attitude and determination ended up inspiring many people around the world. Harvard University social psychologist Dan Gilbert, he discovered that often within 6 months of a traumatic event, the happiness would return to its normal level. Traumatic events, they tend to trigger what Gilbert referred to as a psychological immune system. And he also found that the same was true for massively popular positive events happening, like winning the lottery and becoming a millionaire. You see, winning the lottery won't make you less tired. It won't make you lose weight. It won't change your partner or make your friends or partner more trustworthy. You end up going back to your baseline happiness. So whatever your happiness level is in your general happiness because of your daily habits, that is what's going to change. That is what's going to happen. So 6 months later, people go back, whether they've gone up high, whether they've gone down low. We always end up coming back to this baseline, which we all have. So the same goes for, leaving a loving relationship. We think that's going to be, one of the most painful things ever, never get over it. But we do. Leaving a job's the same. It's one of those things that we'll hang on to. And even losing a limb, as they found that people who have lost limbs within 6 months, they've found a way to deal with it. Their immune system, the psychological immune system kicks in, and they embrace their new life. Now, of course, this isn't everyone, but this is what they found the majority of people are able to do, because we have that when we're able to look at life in a more positive way. We find the beauty hiding within it. Carl Jung once said, he said, even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness. And the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better to take things as they come, along with patience and equanimity. And the sad truth is, we may never eliminate all those toxic people from our life. We don't always know when they're around or they're part of our family. And no matter how hard you try, you can't change. No matter how hard you try, nothing you can do change is their baseline happiness. Nothing's going to change the narcissist's baseline happiness. Like, that is them, and you are you. So narcissists, they want supply. That's where they get their happiness from. That's where they get what they need, and they don't care how they get it. When they abused you, it's because basically, to put it bluntly, because you were handy, because you were their supply. You're the closest thing you were in reach. So you trusted them. That's why they were able to use us, not because you deserved it, not because you did anything wrong. But when they put you down, it wasn't a reflection of you. It was a reflection of how they felt about themselves. For example, if someone calls you worthless, this has nothing to do with you. Just by someone saying something, these are just words. Calling someone worthless comes from their need not to be worthless themselves. They wrongly believe that by making others feel worthless, they by default suddenly become full of worth, which is a total, BS, right? It's not real. Whereas a self-assured person, they're happy to tell other people that, you're amazing, because they're not the sort of person who needs this validation, this external validation from others. They've got enough to give. And if someone attacks you, they're really just attacking themselves. It's their inner insecurities that they're transferring across to you. You're being happy and free is what they find a threat. It's one of the most threatening things for them. They feel like they can then lose control. So when you truly understand that they're coming from a place of lack, you can then lean into your abundance, learn from your abundance, and learn to be able to see things with a more growth-minded mindset. In toxic adult relationships, or even as a child with toxic parents, you've likely been forced to take on this role, or this parental role. Now, the narcissist will sometimes play the child, and you have to play the frustrated mother or father, picking up after them all the time. What could be the other way around? They could be the person who needs to be in control, and they want you to be the child, and they want to tell you off and tell you how you're not, you disappoint them all the time. Now, there's many reasons that narcissists want to play these games, but a few of them are power and control, manipulation and gaslighting. They want to, get something, validation. They want to be admired. They want to avoid responsibility, or they're just dependent. They lack the emotional capacity, so they're dependent on people emotionally, right? So now we kind of know what the kind of games they're playing, and we can now use our energy to start focusing that the power, the belief, the strengths that we've got. We can start focusing them on ourselves instead of worrying about what they're doing. Because the only reason that they were able to hurt you is because you were treating them better than you've been treated yourself, likely. You're putting them first, but if we start putting ourselves first, then we can start to grow. If you want to handle toxic people, you have to start working on building this inner emotional intelligence and build an unstoppable relationship with yourself. Because if you don't tap into this inner power, a narcissist in your life will tap into your inner uncertainties. See, a narcissist they're an expert at triggering you. So you don't want to play a narcissist at their game. If that's what they're expert in, they're expert human manipulation experts, then why do we want to play their game? We don't. We want to use our strengths. We want to play our game. We want to play what we're best at. And that isn't being narcissistic. So it doesn't make any sense to try and beat them at their game. So to avoid this manipulation, it's vital that you work on your insecurities. Look at where is these points where they can kind of find a way to exploit you. And this could be low self-esteem, it could be emotional dependency, it could be lack of self-belief, it could be anything. Imagine for a minute a school teacher, right? They lack confidence. So those manipulative students in the class, they will probably exploit the teacher. Maybe it's like when you had a supply teacher and the supply teacher can't handle the kids and they start crying, because immediately these kids who kind of notice that there's some weaknesses in the teacher, they then engage in the power games and they struggle with the teacher, seeing like how far can we push things and what can we get away with. And the teacher's left like, I can't, I can't handle these kids. I'm just going to quit. I wish I hadn't signed up for teaching these kids. But there is a way to win that battle. And the way to win that battle is to recognize where are these weaknesses? Where are the kids finding this way to hurt them? What do the kids know that their teachers don't? So this means that the teacher has to stand up. She has to take ownership and be like, you know what? This is me. This is who I am. Where's these chinks in the armor that the kids are saying things and that's hurting me? They're talking about my hair. They're talking about these things. Where am I lacking? Where do I feel I'm lacking? Because there's no lacking. We're all whole, healthy people, right? With all these amazing qualities about us. So it's looking at where is it that they're finding their way in to trigger me, and then closing up those bits so that we're then less susceptible. So anything that comes through can just wash over us. So for instance, if you're maybe someone who's seeking approval from the narcissist, you are, by doing that, you are unknowingly inviting that negative energy of toxic people into your life because you're asking for approval. You're bringing that in. So again, it's something to work on. However, if you can become aware that you crave this attention and you work on then removing that limiting belief, all the limiting beliefs that are supporting that self-sabotaging behavior, then you get to live that fulfilling life full of soulful relationships. So it's asking yourself as well the question, what's been the cost of having these the limiting beliefs that are holding us back? Has it been denying yourself living the life that you could be living? Like maybe you crave adventure, or you could be in a different career. A lot of parents tell their kids, this is who you are, this is what you're going to be, and you need to follow this route and don't do anything else. Or maybe you've married someone and they've said, you know what, we're moving to the other side of the world to follow my passion, not asking the other person, what about me? And that's the problem. When we're always there for someone else, then we're unable to be there for ourselves. So if you're honest with yourself about what those insecurities are, then you'll never be able to break free if you're not able to kind of look at them. And a look at them can be difficult, but it's important that we find a way to think, okay, these, like self-reflect really. Because when we build these relationships based on pleasing others, that is when we attract narcissists. Please understand that giving away your soul doesn't make you safe anymore. It might have worked when you were a child, when you needed to keep, parents happy. That was maybe a way to survive. Maybe if you're in a dangerous relationship, then yeah, you've got to, fawn, you've got to find a way to stay safe. But doing this now, continuing to have these insecurities and allow these people to take advantage of them, allows them to continue to have power. One of the things that we often say, we talked about before, is like the way we talk. So when we say stuff like my better half, again, we're putting ourselves down. Even when we say things like my other half, but when you see yourself as a half, you start looking for that other half to complete you, right? But two halves are just two halves. It's like two people who are not fully formed, fully developed. Ideally, we want to understanding that, we need to be ourselves, and then someone else can be themselves, so we can be in a relationship. If we both feel complete, that creates a full relationship. But by believing that you lack something, you're going to limit life. In other words, you're going to become this great survival expert, always living in survival mode, hyper vigilant, and worrying about other people and what we can, how can make people happy. But you never get to experience what it actually means to be truly alive. When I say alive, I mean always living in vibrational energy. But once you understand that, you're already whole, and you can do this by becoming aware and embracing your emotional needs, and there's that picture there. That person's decided that they don't need other people. They need the ground, they're tapping into their love of, what things you did when you were a kid, right? Tapping into that beautiful, just being able to be grounded, be one with nature, back out and exploring. That's who we are. That's who we were meant to be. That's kind of what's inside us. I think one of my most powerful moments was when I was on a retreat. It was like a 3-day retreat, and I couldn't talk to each other apart from ask each other one question. That question that I chose was what am I? Right? And so someone has had to keep asking me for like 3 days in 5-minute intervals. You ask each other, what are you? Some people it'd be, who are you? I chose what am I? So I chose what am I? And I got asked this question so many times, and I keep having to come up with answers, and I was getting frustrated. It was so painful. And to start with, I'm saying I am, I'm a man, and all the stuff you can kind of see. And then I'm like, okay, and then it kind of gets more spiritual, more deep, and like, I'm a piece of stardust, and I'm a piece of, I'm just a consciousness, and all this kind of thing. And it gets really deep, and you're trying to be kind of clever with it and stuff. And for a couple of days, my mind was just going all over the place and kind of coming up with these ideas. And some other people around me were crying and things because they're kind of going through this whole kind of, who am I? Like this question. And then I got to this point, and I was just like, I'm nothing. And this was this kind of feeling of like I am nothing was actually like the most beautiful feeling in the world, because it suddenly meant I didn't have to be, there was no one holding me down, no responsibilities, no constrictions, nothing. And that, for some reason, that felt really, really beautiful. And I actually went out, and there was some woods nearby, and I was walking in these woods while contemplating this, or not even contemplating, and I was like blank in the mind, which is like first time ever. And just seeing these trees, I just felt so emotionally attached to these trees. I just realized these trees are nothing. I'm nothing, and like this planet is nothing. But at the same time, that felt like the most beautiful thing in the world. It's hard to describe, but sometimes it is just letting go of all these things that we're kind of holding on to, trying to get validation from people, trying to, make people love us, trying to understand what's going on. Actually, there's actually, there's other levels. But yeah, it was a powerful experience. Anyway, so when you are able to tap in, then you'll be able to attract other whole and complete people into your life. Because two whole people, that's what makes a relationship. A relationship that's full of abundance. When you rely on people to build you up, they then have the same power to bring you down. Just because two whole people who don't need each other, they can actually then make this really nice, fulfilling relationship, because there's no external needs, there's no desperation, right? None of that kind of lack mentality. So if you're ready to commit to and embrace your wholeness, that is when you'll be able to heal and thrive. A great quote says, we didn't get to choose our family, we don't get to choose our friends. So we don't get to choose our family, but we can choose our friends. So with courage, we can weed out narcissistic people. We can focus on those who do appreciate us, love us, and treat us with respect. So to handle toxic people, we must not use toxic energy ourselves. We must embrace this art of detachment. And this means not trying to change other people. You see, because when you push someone, what do? They push back. They're going to do the opposite. So getting angry only gives them attention, only gives them the supply that they desire. It's a bit like working in a nursery for toddlers. You have to stay professional. You have to do your job. You have to turn up, not expecting anything from them. And this means responding rather than reacting or getting involved in their drama. So what's keeping you stuck? Now, someone who, it could be someone who stays in for as an example, someone who's in a toxic relationship. One thing that might get them stuck is, okay, if I leave this relationship, I'm going to let my family down, or this is my status. I can't leave this because or it could be financially. It could be financial reason why you can't leave. So it could be, there's many reasons, like secondary reasons. They're not the prime reason, maybe, but these are kind of secondary things that we maybe haven't thought about, because these are we kind of call them secondary gains. So these are the kind of the gains we get from staying in a relationship or not pursuing the thing we want to pursue. That makes sense. So we have 3 questions, and I'm gonna get them all up. So yeah, the first one: if you woke up tomorrow morning and the change that you want to make had been made, what would you miss? So it's thinking about what are those secondary gains? What are those things that you would, like I said in that example, the thing that maybe will stop you leaving a relationship could be the fact that, what will people say about me? I want to keep my identity. I want to keep my something. There's things that we don't see that are often holding us back. So yeah, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to go through those questions and see if you can work out any secondary gains that are stopping you from taking whatever action it is in your life that you want to focus on. Breaking the trauma bond. In 1973, a bank robbery took place in Stockholm, Sweden. The robbers took 4 hostages, and over a 6-day standoff, eventually the hostages, they were released. After they were set free, some of the hostages, they refused to testify against the bank robbers. Now, criminologists, they coined this term Stockholm syndrome to describe the affinity that some hostages showed towards their kidnappers. Now, while from the outside this may look strange, Stockholm Syndrome is a powerful coping mechanism. To put it simply, it's bonding with captors is what increases the chances of our survival. See, by working with and not fighting against the abuser, victims feel that they may secure their safety. Stockholm Syndrome isn't the only barrier, though, stopping you from breaking free. Infantile regression is an unconscious defense mechanism that is triggered when a person is exposed to terror. You see, infantile regression might involve behaviors such as seeking comfort, childlike dependence, or engaging in activities associated with a younger age. This regression can manifest in many ways, including reassurance, temper tantrums, or expressing dependence on the other people just to get their basic needs met. Narcissists expose their victims to mental, emotional, and physical terror. Now, this terror must be denied as well if the victim is to survive the unrelenting onslaught of abuse over a long period of time. So trying to leave the abuser can be this daunting task. And even after leaving, many report wanting to go back. And this is what psychologists term as reverse escaping. Reverse escaping might involve behaviors such as self-sabotage or engaging in harmful relationships. Despite the availability of healthy alternatives, it's a way to avoid dealing with underlying issues or emotions. See, the human body releases oxytocin during stressful times as a compensatory anti-stress reaction. In the brain, oxytocin acts as this chemical, as a messenger, and has an important role in many human behaviors. As a result, oxytocin has been called the love hormone. It's been called the cuddle chemical. Oxytocin is known as the love or bonding hormone. You know, this emotional bond can make it harder for someone to leave, even when the relationship is unhealthy. In some cases, oxytocin released during stressful times can reinforce certain behaviors that are associated with the relationship, even if those behaviors are negative. So, for example, if a person experiences oxytocin release while their partner shows affection to them, if the affection's after a conflict, then they might start to be more likely to stay in that relationship despite the ongoing issues that are happening, the ongoing abuse. Plus, the narcissist will mix in the sprinkle of intermittent kindness along with the abuse. And behavior experts have identified as well another 4 conditions for the formation of traumatic attachment. 1 is a direct threat. 2 is perceived kindness on the part of the narcissist towards the victim. 3 is isolation from points of view of others than the point of view of the narcissist. And 4 is the inavailability and irreversibility of the situation. Basically, they're getting you trapped. This is why we are fighting such a losing battle if we think we can survive with our mental health intact while still maintaining a relationship. There's so many manipulation games that the narcissist is playing to keep us hooked in, most of which we don't even realize are happening. And the ugly truth is that their manipulation games will never stop. This is the way they are programmed. Studies have shown that when we are scared of something, we can misinterpret that feeling. And this is known as a misattribution of arousal. For example, when experiencing psychological responses related to fear, we can easily mislabel those responses as romantic arousals. Hence why so many first dates, people go and watch a scary movie. In the 1960s, Stanford psychologists, they placed children in a room with a marshmallow. Now they were then told that they were going to be left in that room alone with the marshmallow for 15 minutes. And they could have the marshmallow if they didn't eat it, or they had more marshmallows, all the marshmallows if they didn't eat one in the return. Now, as you can imagine, many of the children, they struggled with this, but some of the children were successful. They didn't eat any. Now, the successful children, they found out were those that were able to hold 2 opposing ideas at the same time. Because holding 2 beliefs simultaneously is known as cognitive dissonance. So narcissists, they use this against us by showing us how, the world could be. which then leaves us with the two opposing views. One being, I know they will never change and I deserve better. And one being, but they do good things sometimes. So maybe I'm overthinking and I should stay and just give them another chance. Now, humans, we've developed this ability, and it's an amazing ability to hold two beliefs at the same time. For example, this can really help us to see the world for what it is and create a healthy work-life balance rather than just getting all one-sided. But the narcissists, they will stop at nothing to keep you trapped by this cognitive dissonance. That's why we need to stay committed to developing awareness of what our opposing thoughts are. So the exercise to finish off is a core belief exercise. So there's three sentences, and without overthinking it, without worrying too much about what it means, just complete the sentences. So the first sentence is I am, whatever comes to mind. I am. If I was still hugging that tree, I'd be I am nothing. But whatever comes to mind, I am. Finish the sentence. Second one, other people are. And the third one, the world is. Just finish the sentence. So yeah, it doesn't have to be overanalyzed. Just cool. Right, let's move on to the next part of the exercise. So now, looking at those beliefs, or kind of what answer these questions. So who in your life holds a similar view? Do you know anyone who has similar view? What experiences shape them, as in the person who has this similar view? When did you first become aware of these beliefs? And do these beliefs serve you? Okay, I'm going to move on to the final part. So same first questions that we first statements that we asked. I am, other people are, and the world is. If you could rewrite them, would you don't have to, but would you rewrite them in any way? And if so, yeah, rewrite them in a way that cultivates to serve you better for the future of you. Okay. So that is the end of week 5. Amazing, everyone. Congratulations. You made it to the end of week 5. Keep up the good work.